Hi, I'm Paul Wilkinson and I'm videoing from Kathmandu, where I've been making documentaries about Nepali shamanism and about Nepali culture. And here today is the most extraordinary magar shaman costume. I haven't brought the dress out with me, but most of these items were from one particular shaman's kit, and it's the most complete kit that I've ever had. And there's a bit of a strange story related to this. So we have the bib and brace with the bells for the ancestors and for the protection from the spirit world, with all sorts of animal parts, a bell chain, and a three-part feather headdress. There should be another piece that goes wraps around that with cowrie, a spirit catcher and a drum. And I've added a few other objects so that you can see what a shaman kit is like. But about 5 years ago, I have a whole range of people who go up into the mountains looking for things, and I regularly go filming, and also do my own practice with shaman all over the place, all over Nepal. And about 5 years ago, one of my friends, who's an antique dealer, contacted me because he had this very, very special shamanic kit with the belt, and it's by far the most complete and the most beautiful that I've ever had. And so I went over there and we looked at everything, and he said this was the complete kit, and I bought it and I brought it home and I laid it out in the kitchen, and I was just I'd been out all day, I was making myself a little bit of food, and it was just laid on the surface, and I was gradually looking at everything, and then I felt this presence of someone standing next to me. And I don't normally see spirits, I feel spirits, but I don't normally see them. But I turned, and there was a little old man standing there, and he was the shaman who belonged to this, who this stuff had belonged to. He had died some time back, quite some time ago. He was in his 70s, and he was thoroughly pissed off, and he demanded to know who I was and what I was doing with his stuff. And I explained who I am and what I'm doing with his stuff, and he calmed down, and I explained that I'm also practicing shamanism, and that I specialise in supplying other shaman with ritual objects that are empowered, so that so they have the real powerful objects, and that rather than this going in just going in a collection, it would be used, and that I would keep the things together. Anyway, he then calmed down, and it was a bit confrontational. He then asked me where certain other pieces are, and the antique dealer had promised me that everything was complete, and he said, "Where are my ferbers? There should be 2 ferbers. Where are my bell chains? There should be a pair of bell chains. Where's my knife? Where's my Naga mala?" And I didn't have any of these things. So I said this was everything that I got, and that the person I got it from had promised that it was complete. So the next day I went back to the same antique dealer and asked him, I told him the story where the ghost of the shaman had come and had asked, where are my ferber? Where's my knife? Where are my bell chains? And the face of the dealer sort of changed, and I don't know whether he had sold the other pieces off separately, or whether they had never come. He told me he hadn't had them, but it's very hard to know. Anyway, I've brought some similar objects here so that you can see what the whole kit would be like. But this is particularly interesting because it's in incredibly good condition. So quite often you lose a lot of the bits, they rot or they break, or the shamanic work also is quite hard going on the objects because they're dancing around and they're in trance and so on. And it's amazing having like this complete crown. So I'll show you through the pieces. So these are all magar shaman from far west Nepal. This is a very thick leather on there. I don't know what type of leather. It's a lot thicker than the normal deer skin, but maybe from some sort of mountain antelope, maybe buffalo or something else. And it's got this double tie like that. You can see the same way as the dengaroo. It's split wood down along the grain and then steamed round and bent round and pegged. You can see the metal rivets going in there and pegging it. And then this bamboo lashing or wood lashing, fastening everything super tight, and then with leather lashing onto the skin. So they'd soak the skin and then they'd stretch it. It has quite a sort of a flat sound. This is the stick that came with it, so with a little shaman figure praying on the top, holding a drum, and you know, sort of flattened edge to it. So with a little hole in the middle. The hole looks deliberate. It doesn't look like it's torn, which is interesting. Very occasionally I've had drums where they've got like something attached in through a hole in the front that acts like a bit like a snare on the back of the drum. I don't know whether that's from it or not. It's possible it's been made by some giant woodworm or something, but it still sounds good and is in a pretty good condition. Really interesting, and with the forged iron pieces here holding the bamboo in place. Very, very nice. So the next piece, the big piece here, is, you can see it's got all these, can you see that with the camera? Yep. So all these iron bells, and then with different suns and moons. Everything is on sort of big forged links where the metal's been sort of wrapped around and forged. All these symbols act as a sort of protective element for the shaman, and you sometimes have other little implements. So you can see there's a lot of ironwork and actually a lot of weight. So this is worn like a sort of bib and brace. Get that out of the way. So this crosses over like that, and then you've got all these bells that happen on the back. So these are very, very ancient bronze bells, and other bits of giant cowries, all sorts of animal skins, loads of eagle's feet. I think there were 7 eagle feet, and I think maybe 7 yak tails. Lots of yak tails here. This is a skin of a mongoose. So you've got things related to, like, mongoose are like the enemy of the Naga, and then the cowrie are often related to the feminine. And then you see these links here. So I'm a bit too big for this, so I'll make another video where I dress up a Nepali where they can see it. Then you've got these wild boar tusks here, where that relates to strength and courage and tenacity and digging deep into things. So it's to do with that sense of sort of virility and power and the earth. So you've got the iron down in the lower part, and then you've got these other travelling type things, and then on the crown, the upper aspect of it, it's both like a sort of armour, plus it's things related to the higher realms, to flying. So I'll show you a little bit more here. So you can see these hooks, these iron hooks, link over. If I stand up and I hook this over my shoulder, maybe you can. I'm not going to fasten it, but you'll get a sense of it. Maybe a little bit more if I put it on. So animal skins. You see the yak tails, all these eagles, and that goes around like that. I'm about 6 inches too big at the waist. So that's and then you would have usually a white costume with a big skirt. You see these other patterns with a big cowrie here. Really, really extraordinary. You've got all sorts of interesting things in amongst all this. Look at all these giant big eagle feet and tails. That's probably a peacock. And these are, look at these huge talons from the eagle's feet. So you have this sense of and I'll just show you actually. The reason I brought these altarpieces down. These are Magar shaman altarpieces. So you see the bells, and then at the back, and fastened round, and you see the bells and the same sort of drum, and the headdress. Whoa, heavy, yeah. You see with the bells crossing over the shoulders and at the back, and then it's heavy. And then the headdress. Then there was this bell chain, very, very fine work with the, probably has something missing there. Beautiful little bells, and this wonderful ironwork, probably representing the snake or the naga, and then a sort of pouch that's probably got something inside, some sort of magic stuff, and cowrie shells and twisted long seashells and other little bits of nuts and stuff attached. So that's a sort of a magical pouch like that. So then this is the first time I've ever had one of these. This is a spirit catcher. So you've got this, it's a bamboo, you've got this forged iron point on the end, a whole load of magical forged iron objects at the top. So you've got like machetes and axe heads, different axe heads, fire tongs, snakes. Here you see the snake, cookery, lots and lots of magic sickles. So you've got all these magical protective objects, and also sort of related to fire, and the shaman's also able to listen to that, and then the shaman goes into trance, and if someone's dead or they need to find a spirit, they go into trance and they're dancing and they're doing mantra, and they go out looking, and this goes and finds the spirit, finds the dead person. So even sometimes if someone's died and they don't know where they've died, the shaman will go into trance and they'll find the dead body. And I had never seen one of these before, but I have a very odd visual memory where once I've seen something I sort of remember forever. and I just couldn't place it where it was. And I suddenly thought, I think it's in this very old film called Shaman of the Blind Country. And I have a copy of the film. I went and I watched it again, and actually at the time I watched it on YouTube, and then I bought a copy since. And really near the end of that, there's an old shaman using one of these to find someone who's died and to put their spirit to rest. So it's absolutely wonderful. I've never had one of these before, and just very, very nice to have all these things complete together. And then the headdress is absolutely extraordinary. Normally you find the feather piece at the front, and often in fairly poor condition. This one has multiple pieces. So you've got the front piece here with the porcupine quills, and I think that's probably eagle owl behind. So that's going on the front. And the middle layer is, I think, wild chicken. So this piece wraps around. You see, it's really beautifully. Every piece is bound around, and that sits in the middle like that on the top. And then just lay that in there as we go. Then this piece. This is like a guard at the back, and I think that's also probably eagle owl. So you see it absolutely packed full of feathers, very nicely stitched in to the back. That would lay on like that, and you can see they've got these wrappings where you would put that on like the crown. So that this in the middle. This at the back, like that, and then so it's worn with I don't know if I can show, like this, and then this piece with the magical green and red embroidered all in with the cowrie shells, which used to also act as money, and that acts as the band that goes round the front. So I'll see if I can. It's only going to be a rough approximation because you need a head to put it on. So again, I've never had a complete crown like this from the Naga people. You can see. So that would actually spread out a lot more, and you'd have this at the front and this very open on the crown. Much more like this, actually much more like that. So you've got different Naga tribes. And then the other objects that were missing, and I'll just show you the other things that would go in a typical kit. So you have a large dress, and sometimes like a turban as well that wraps around, that would usually stay on actually when they're wearing that. And then 2 bell chains which would cross over like this as a back and forth. Sometimes the Naga shaman don't have the bell chains, but because they've got this, but often they do. So you've got the costume first with the long skirt, and then this, and then the bell chains, and then various malas as well. He also needed his shaman knife. Oh, this is also a Naga shaman cookery knife with the cast handle with a figure on the top in a praying position and with the legs. And here's a typical shamanic furba So shaman might have more than one fervor. They quite often have 3 or 4 fervor, and they all have slightly different energies. They all have a like different type of consciousness. So some are for flying with, and some are for digging deep into the underworld. Some are for travelling with. They quite often hand a fervor to the person being healed, and so the shaman will sit when they're healing. Will sit on a shaman stool like this, and they'll have the person being healed also sat on one. So this sort of anchors them and creates a sacred arena into which they're entering that world. And then other typical Naga shaman objects are things like this wonderful mala with a hornbill skull. So the hornbill are used for travelling, for journeying through the upper worlds, for astral projection, for flying. So they'll meditate with it. They'll do mantra with it, and sometimes they're paired. I have a pair that I've had for many years that I use for doing sort of shamanic flying. And you can feel the pulse when you enter into the energy of them, where they've been used for many, many years, sometimes many hundreds of years. So one of the interesting things here is that you get objects that have been used ritually with a lot of powerful energy often require a huge, like an energy memory. And I have a real curiosity about the energy as much as the object. So actually sometimes you get, like sometimes I'll find like a shaman box, and it will have little stones in it and crystals and other things, or little Rudraska beads, and things which would have no outer value but which are strong, really strong and energetic. And the same, occasionally I'll have shaman give me something, and sometimes these things look wonderful. Other times they look like nothing, but they're full of energy, full of dynamic force, and sometimes given to you with great secrecy as well. Like, don't tell anyone that you've got this. So really, really interesting, this whole process of entering into this magic world. And then other typical things would be things like this Naga mala, which is a snake skeleton strung up in its own, in the sequence of the snake. So you can see here's a tail and a head. It's all kept in the right sequence. So what they do is shaman don't usually kill the animals themselves, and so maybe they'll find something, or someone will bring something to them, and then the ritual for this is like a 42-day ritual where they'll bury the snake vertically inside a bamboo. They'll split the bamboo down the length, clean out the middle, and then tie up the ends of it, and then they bury it. And for 42 days they do mantra and other rituals to empower the snake bones. And that's used for healing, for cleaning the energy around the etheric body, placing on the crown chakra to pull, like sometimes to do things like pull out headaches, for instance, using the Naga to stimulate the chakras. Other objects that you might have found with all this, things like this shamanic arm bone trumpet. This came out of a different magar shaman box. So you blow in like this, and it makes a very shrill sort of sound. This is this is female. This is a shaman, piece of shaman's arm. Sometimes you've got the upper arm, sometimes legs. But usually a very senior shaman would have donated their arms or their legs, even sometimes their head, their skull, as a couple for doing sacred sort of tantric offerings of blood or food or flowers or honey. So this is the most complete shaman kit I've ever had. one of the dilemmas is that obviously the objects are very powerful, and they need to be with the right person. And so I've now had this for 5 years, and I'll have it for as long as needed. I've shown it to 2 different shaman friends that are very strong, and one really needed it and then felt into it and thought, I'm not ready yet. I sometimes use this object, the spirit catchers. I sometimes play the drum. Every now and then I make sure everything is clean and looked after and respected, and I keep it in with my other shamanic objects. And so at some point this will go into use again, and the objects often have that feeling of wanting to be used. The other day I was looking at the different shaman knives that I've got, and I cleaned them all and I sharpened them, and there was literally a feeling of joy coming from them, because they were all getting ready to do their work again, to start their journey and to start cleaning the energy. So I hope you found that interesting and useful. Do let me know if there are other videos you'd like to see. Do subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one. Thank you.